Good morning, everyone. So this morning we got a few people with some neck, shoulder, and a little bit of low back tightness. So today's class is going to be a little bit more open. I don't know, again, I don't know if I will post this. There's a good chance I will, there's a good chance I won't. We're going to be using foam roller and a staff. We're going to be looking at movement of the shoulder, using foam roller to help improve mobility, reduce pain, same thing around the neck, and we're going to do a little bit of work in the low back area as well. So rules, I want to go over rules since we're bringing in the foam roller into a couple of areas. The rules of pain apply with the foam roller just as it does with movement. I don't want to be in positions or have pressure that is a level 3 or above. I want to keep massage pain and movement pain at a below the level 3. So if you're on the foam roller or you're doing a movement and it is uncomfortable, and uncomfortable is going to be a level of pain, then I want you to put it on, quantify it on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not painful, 10 being excruciating. And if the pressure of the massage or the movement you're going into is a 3 or above, then you need to back off. If you're unable to back off enough on the foam roller or the position you're getting into is painful, I want you to get off the roller and contact me. Really important to kind of follow the rules if you want to get the best the possible benefit of the movement and the modalities. So with that, let's get started. So we're going to start in the standing position, getting into our crocodile breathing first. So we're making two big C shapes with our hands, placing our hands below the ribs. So I want to be below the 12th rib and above the pelvic bone in that nice meaty space. Really what we're getting around is on the abdominal walls that wrap all the way around front to back. Index fingers are pressing into the abdomen. Side palms are pressing into the side body, and thumbs are pressing lightly into the low back. We're going to squeeze in as we exhale so that we have resistance to breathe in and expand out into. So I want to imagine like when you inhale, you're trying to inflate like a balloon in all directions, breathing forward, out through the side, and into the low back. So we'll get a good like 5 or 6 breaths. Start light with each breath. See if you can expand out a little bit more. So on the inhale, we're breathing out, seeing if you can feel that expansion into the index finger, side palm, and thumb. On the exhale, we're drawing navel all the way into the spine and applying a little bit more pressure through the hands. And then immediately inhale and inflate. Feel the hand expand out in all the directions. As you inhale and inflate, you may notice that there's some tension, that you're holding your shoulders a little stiff. On your exhale, as you draw navel in, allow that tension to kind of rinse off the body. I don't want to have a lot of stiffness in the shoulders. And also notice where you're finding that your breath goes into well. Are you having trouble breathing out to the sides or into the low back? Is it harder to breathe to the right side or to the left side of the body? And then we're going to go ahead and let our hands softly drop down. We're going to get into our bowls of soup. I want to continue to breathe and expand into that crocodile breath. But at this point, we're going to bring arms out to the side, reaching away actively. I want to kind of think like we're Stretch Armstrong, and our hands can continue to stretch to touch the walls. And we're expanding our hands and fingers out, making our hands as wide as possible. flat and wide. See if you can feel some stretch through the palm of the hand. And from here, we'll spiral both palms slowly up towards the ceiling. And we're going to move from one side to the other. Spiraling palm all the way through. I want to feel this movement up at the shoulder. I don't want my shoulder to round and roll forward, at least not to start with. So we're only spiraling as far as we can spiral while maintaining our shoulder position. So I want to feel this up all the way at the shoulder socket. Imagine that ball of the shoulder is spinning inside that socket. So we're spiraling one side in, squeezing at the end, and then opening up as much as you can, and then same thing to the other side. The height of my hands will depend on how comfortable it is at the shoulder. If you have shoulder impingement pain, then I want the hands a little bit lower so that you can get that nice spiral and spin through the long arm bone. If you're able to come up higher without pinch or pain, we can bring it all the way up to even with the shoulders. As you're going back and forth, get a good sense of how does this feel on the right shoulder compared to the left shoulder. And there's a couple of things I want to pay attention to. How does it feel?
I have a quick question. Sorry. I definitely feel it, but it's lower than a level 3, but I feel it when I raise my left arm. But okay. I can do the rotation still, and it's under a level 3. So should I keep it raised?
If it's below level 3, yeah, I think you're okay.
Okay.
If it feels like it's starting to elevate above, then kind of, are you able to get more range by being lower, or do you feel like it gets a little stuck by being higher? I would go with where you can get more range, more mobility at the moment. But kind of judge it, because we're going to come back and reassess this, and so hopefully you're going to find that it moves better. And part of what I want to do here is get a good comparative analysis. How does the right shoulder feel spiraling the thumb inward? This is inward rotation. So as I spiral my palm in, I'm getting inward rotation at the shoulder. And I also want to look at external rotation, spiraling it out. They're two different movements, and they're going to feel different compared to each other. How does inward rotation on the left arm feel compared to inward rotation of the right? And then how does external rotation of the left arm feel compared to external rotation of the right? And get a good sense of how that feels. My left shoulder is generally, I always have a little bit of pain to it. When I spiral inward, I feel more restriction, and I tend to get a little discomfort as I spiral outward, but my outward rotation, I have more range of motion. My right shoulder spirals pretty smoothly throughout. I definitely have more tightness and tension in the left shoulder as I externally spiral, kind of more through the anterior compartment of the shoulder. So I want to get a good feel for that, because after we get on the foam roller here in just a minute, that should get some improvement in that. Next, we're going to get our staff and go through some staff mobility. So getting a nice solid grip on the staff, about shoulder width apart. I want to imagine that we're trying to bend the staff or break the staff in two. And so that bending of the staff is going to require kind of a spiraling palm, that thumb moving up towards the ceiling. I want that spiraling at the wrist. I also want to have the elbow pits spiraling up towards the ceiling. And I want to feel the shoulder blades packing down on the ribs. And I want to maintain that tension in the staff throughout our shoulder mobility. From here, take a nice breath in, and as you exhale, draw the navel into spine and scoop the pelvis. And I want to maintain that scoop and maintain that kind of tension in the core, you're going to be able to continue to breathe, but don't let that pelvis tilt forward. I want to keep it lightly tucked under. From here, we're bringing our elbows up slowly towards our ears and only going as high as we can without going into pain. Exhale as you squeeze. Inhale, let the arms come forward slightly. Exhale, we're squeezing a little further. With each one, see if you can go a little further back without going into pain. And notice, how does this feel on the right shoulder compared to the left shoulder? I want to maintain that tension in the staff. Elbows are actively straight, wrist is straight. We'll do 5 to 10 reps, slowly reaching a little further back. I have a little bit more tension through my left shoulder, again, through that anterior compartment of the capsule. So just take notice of how does this feel left side compared to right side. After 10 of those, we're going to move the staff behind us, palms facing backwards. We're actively reaching down, extending through the elbows, and still bending the staff, trying to break the staff, but we're bending it away from the body. Elbow pits are going to continue to spiral forward, and we're going to get a little bit of a bend in the hips, and from here we're lifting the elbows up towards the ceiling. I'm no longer concerned about maintaining that scoop of the pelvis here. Exhale as you squeeze. Inhale as you allow it to soften. And with each one, see if you can squeeze a little bit higher. And again, notice, how does this feel on the right shoulder compared to the left? Is it a little tighter, stiffer? Are you able to go as far? Or does one shoulder, one side want to lift higher and the other side does not? As you're doing this, well, I'll get to that when we come back around to it. We're going to reverse our grip on the staff, so palms are now facing forward. We're still bending the staff away from the body, so elbow pits are still spiraling forward. This should kind of help open up the chest to the wall in front. And doing the exact same thing. Exhale as you squeeze elbows up to the ceiling. Inhale as you bring the arms back down. And again, doing 5 to 10 reps, each one seeing if you can get a little further and comparing that left shoulder to right shoulder. With the palms facing forward, if you have any kind of bicep tendon tightness, tension that might be creating some impingement, palms forward, you may feel a little bit greater stretch in one of the shoulders. So that's a good thing to kind of take notice of. We're going to go ahead and set the staff down to the side, and we're going to grab our foam roller, and we're going to come down to the floor. So I'm getting kind of into my shin box. I'm going to go in, we're getting onto our side body. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of have the foam roller off to the side. And I want to come down to my elbow, and I want to make sure that I can get into this position without pain. I want to make sure it's not painful in the shoulder, and then I got good control of my core. From here, we're going to place the foam roller just under the shoulder itself, and I want to place the outside edge of the shoulder on the foam roller. And real quick, I'm going to tell you what we're getting on. So we're going to be getting on, really on the deltoid muscles, and there's 3 groups. You got posterior, medial, and anterior deltoid. We're going to work each of those, and then we're going to get a little bit on the front of that shoulder. But I want to stay on the ridge of the shoulder, really as high up to the outside edge of the shoulder without that foam roller popping out from under us. Just across this edge. Underneath the deltoid is the rotator cuff muscles. We're kind of lightly getting a little bit of work into those as well. So, softly set the shoulder to the foam roller. Make sure that this is a comfortable position first. Can you maintain this position without pain? Other hand can come down in order to brace so that you're not putting all of your body weight into the foam roller. And right away, I want to get into our breath. Nice deep breath and allowing the tissue on the roller to melt. I want to imagine that deltoid muscle is just butter and the foam roller is a hot knife and you're just allowing that butter to melt. This may be sensitive right off the bat. And if it is, I want to make sure that we are not at a level 3 or above. If so, see if you can move and adjust to find a spot where it's not as painful. And if you can't, then it may be that you're not able to do this right now, and I'd rather you contact me.
Jesse,
Yes.
what are you doing with your left arm, the one that's on the roller? What are you doing with your elbow and your hand?
I'm just trying to keep it as soft and as little tension as I possibly can. If you need to have some tension in it in order to support, to get you there, that's fine. But eventually I want to get to where I'm letting that go. This is going to be an area where the pressure of the foam roller might be a big deal. The trigger point foam rollers are very, very firm. Even though they got a little bit of padding on them, they're still quite firm. The blue foam rollers, the melt method, the kind of marbled ones are a little softer, so those might be better to work on to start with.
Okay, thanks.
So from this position, we're already should be getting a little bit of melting. And remember, when it comes to melting, I only want about a 30 to 40% reduction in any kind of discomfort or tension. So we're going to move along that ridge. We're not going up and down. We're rotating through the shoulder. So if I rotate my shoulder back, my top shoulder, so that it is behind my front shoulder, I'm getting on the posterior aspect of the deltoids. If my shoulders are perfectly stacked, I'm getting on the medial delt. And if my shoulder comes forward, I'm going to be on the anterior delt. And if I drop that shoulder all the way so that my shoulders are parallel, I'm going to get more on that bicep tendon. So those are 4 areas that I kind of want to lightly explore to see where it's most sensitive. And where you find the most sensitive spot, again, without it being a 3 or above, that is where I want to kind of sit with the foam roller, take some nice deep breaths in, exhale, allow it to melt. And as it reduces by 30 to 40%, we're going to go to the next spot. And take note of where you're feeling it. I'm feeling it more kind of medial, a little bit anterior delt. My shoulder's a little bit rounded forward, and it's kind of right as I get to the outside edge and a little bit to the front of it that I feel the most sensitivity. If you have trouble feeling that tissue melt, or if it's just too tense and uncomfortable, try moving off of that spot. Go to an area where it's less sensitive and see if you can move slowly into it and find the edge to where you can breathe and melt without it being too much. What you'll find is by working on the outside edge of it, after a minute, you may be able to come and put more pressure on it as that tissue kind of gets a little bit more relief. So I want to work 2 to 3 spots around these 4 areas. Again, posterior, medial, anterior, and all the way forward, getting into that bicep tendon. If on the staff, when you had the palms facing forward doing the lift, you felt that stretch, that movement, or the load stretch to the front of the shoulder, I definitely want to get you into this more parallel position, getting on that bicep tendon. And we'll go ahead and get a couple more nice deep breaths in and out. And then we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm kind of in my shin box, coming down into a nice comfortable side body. I like to start on that outside, on the elbow, just to make sure that, one, I can support myself through the shoulder, through the core, then easing ourselves down on the roller, placing the outside edge of the shoulder on the roller. Start with a couple of breaths here, unless it's overly sensitive. Get a little bit of melting before we start seeking out the sensitive spot. As you feel that light melting into the roller, then we can kind of explore. Allow that top shoulder to roll back or roll forward, kind of seeing where's the most sensitive location to start. It's worth noting whether it's different on this side compared to the other side. Is it more sensitive in the posterior region of the shoulder? Is it more sensitive to the medial or to the anterior? Or is it just not that sensitive at all? As I'm getting on my right shoulder, which is generally not the more painful of the two, it doesn't feel quite as dense. I do have a spot that's kind of dense, but it's just not quite as sensitive. So you can work on the dense spots, kind of imagine that those are sensitive spots and see if you can get the density of it to reduce by 30 to 40%. You may notice that as it reduces a little bit, that the sensitivity actually starts to increase. As long as it doesn't go with 3 or above, I'm going to consider that kind of a part of the process and not a bad thing. Feeling what's underneath the top layers, you're going to get into those deeper layers where it might be a little bit more sensitive. So again, I want to kind of get 2 or 3 spots, possibly going forward into that bicep tendon. Maybe it's more posterior on this shoulder. Again, we'll get 2 or 3 more breaths in and out. And then we're going to slowly come back up all the way to standing, and we're going to grab our foam roller. We're going to grab our staff again. Actually, we're going to leave the staff to the side first. We're going to start with our bowls of soup. So, spreading out the fingers as wide as you can, straight palms, straight elbows, straight wrist, starting with arms spiraled up towards the ceiling. And we're going to internally spiral one arm at a time in, and then opening it up, and then the same thing to the other side. And right off the bat, you should notice whether there is some improvement. My left shoulder feels considerably smoother in both directions. It's still a little tighter in my external, spiraling my palm up compared to the right, but big difference. So anybody else noticing an improvement?
Yeah, I'm having a big improvement, significantly so, but I still do feel a little bit of the pain, but I mean, it's significantly less.
Okay.
And I also have more range of motion.
Great.
Me
Anybody?
too. The pain is a lot less, but my chest is starting to hurt under my clavicles.
Was it the position uncomfortable on the foam roller? Was it hard to manage?
A little bit.
Okay.
It was manageable, but I could feel that I was using new muscles.
Okay.
And also, I want to say, Jesse, my tender spots on both sides, bicep tendon, completely.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
This is Aaron, by the way. I feel like when I was on my left shoulder with the foam roller, it was a lot of stress on the side of my right neck. So I kind of had to stop after a while. That's the only thing I am kind of noticing, like that was like, ugh.
Okay.
But as for like the soups now, it's good. I still feel like tension in my neck. But I have more range of motion, but I feel like the ickiness has like now traveled down to like my elbow a little bit. I'm feeling something there.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's painful. It's just, I guess after doing the right shoulder on the foam, it's like now traveling down there.
Okay. That's good info. I don't know if we'll get a chance. We'll hopefully get a little wrist mobility work in here. There's other work we can do down the arm, but that would take way more than an hour for me to get through. But I will get to the neck next. So there's still a little bit left in the shoulders from this. We could go another round on the foam roller, but Sue, with the collarbone, I want to kind of make sure that you're not collapsing on the foam roller. So I kind of want to keep you off of it too much.
Okay.
So I may come back and we might look at the outside edge of the shoulder again after we go through the next thing. So we're going to come down into our inverted position now, or reverse sit. Rounding palms. If this position is hard to do on the wrists, we can do it in the chair. Let me go ahead and get the chair out just to kind of show it. So in a chair, instead of pushing, we're gonna grab the bottom of the chair and pull. And I'm pulling so that I'm drawing my shoulder blades down my back. And I want to feel my chest open up to the ceiling, so we're spiraling elbows out and feel that nice open stretch. And I want to imagine being tall through the sternum and tall through the spine. This will help keep the shoulder blades down and back. Otherwise, I want to be on the floor, grounding palms and pushing instead of pulling, but I want the same effect. We're going to spiral the elbow pits out, lifting up through the sternum and up through the back of the skull. So from here, whether you're in the chair or on the floor, everything should be roughly the same. We're going to start with spirals of the elbows, similar to our bowls of soup, except that our hands are fixed to the ground. So as we spiral elbow pits forward, which will be spiraling them in towards our midline, that's internal rotation, and then spiraling them back out to external rotation. I want to again feel, how does it feel around the shoulder area that we just worked? But also notice that as you spiral those elbows, that it changes the position of your shoulders. As you spiral the elbows inward, the shoulder blades kind of naturally want to round up and forward. We're going to allow that to happen. Allow that upper back to round, allow the shoulders to move up towards the ears, and we'll even add a little scoop of the pelvis so that we can get a little rounding in our low back. We're getting into an inverted cat. So we can feel that stretch through the upper back and the lower back. And then we're going to spiral elbows out, lifting up the sternum, getting tall in the spine. See if you can feel some stretch across the upper chest. Spiraling in and out with each one, we want to see if we can open the chest up a little bit more, making that stretch bigger. Also continuing to spiral out to feel this stretch across the upper shoulders. And on the inward, we're rounding the shoulders up towards the ears, scooping the pelvis. Can you feel a big stretch across the upper back and down into the lower back? I want to inhale as I externally spiral, getting nice and tall, using that breath like it's filling up our crocodile breath, our balloon, and inflating the spine so that we get nice and tall. And as we exhale, we're drawing navel into spine and it's deflating the balloon, and our spine is softening and rounding. Again, get a good sense for how does this feel on the right shoulder compared to the left shoulder. On the next one, as you externally spiral, getting nice and tall, we're going to stay tall. You're welcome to cross your legs at this point. And now we're going to get into some neck mobility. Starting out with checking our blind spots, reaching the chin over, seeing how far can you reach your chin over your shoulder. Want to make sure that we're not reaching from our forehead, because that will create a tilt into our rotation, and the head is no longer in alignment with the spine. So I want to reach from my chin, the bottom point of my chin, to see how far can I get that chin over the line of my shoulder. Doing the same thing to the left. And then notice if this is tighter, moving in one direction compared to the other. Also notice if your range of motion is more or less in one direction than the other. And the interesting thing here is the tighter side is not always the side with less range of motion. It may feel tighter to the side that you go farther on. So those are two distinctly different questions I want to ask. Which direction feels tighter than the other, and where does it feel tighter? And which direction do you move more in? If they're both the same, great. But if they're different, that's really important. Then we're going to come back to center, and now we're going to do our lightly dropping an ear towards the shoulder. I'm not going all the way down. This is a light drop. And then we're lifting the opposite ear up towards the ceiling. At the same time that you're lifting up, you're also pressing down through that same side palm. And we're going side to side. We're going to exhale as we press and lift. Inhale as you come to center. Exhale as you press and lift. This should create kind of a traction stretch through the front side of the neck. Notice if it's different on the left side compared to the right side. And is this the same side that was tight and tense when we were checking our blind spots? You can also play with opening up the jaw as you lift. See if there's any stretch or anything of interest in the jaw on the right side compared to the left side. Then the last thing we'll do for our neck is our glides. So on glides, I want to keep the cheekbones on the same level. I don't want the head to tilt to where one cheekbone is higher than the other. And we're seeing if we can glide across, back and forth. I want to do this without moving the shoulders back and forth. Shoulders are fixed, elbows are spiraled out, chest is tall. We're really grounded, so we're moving exclusively through the cheekbones, side to side. This is a difficult movement to do, especially if you're not used to it. It helps to have a mirror to look at, to see if you're tilting or lightly rotating, because I don't want to turn the head and I don't want to tilt. I want to keep the eyes fixed forward and see if you can go as far in both directions. Notice where it feels tighter and tenser and more difficult to do. And then we're going to grab our foam roller again. And this time we're going to lay on our back and we're going to place the foam roller underneath the base of the skull on what's called the occipital bones. This is the bone, the bottom part of the skull, which our neck muscles kind of root and attach to. And I just want to place the head here and let it soften. I want to think of this more as a pillow and not as a massage tool. I'm not trying to dig into these muscles. I just want to place my head here And the first thing is to make sure that this is not painful, that this is not an uncomfortable position, at least not an uncomfortable beyond a level 2. And since we're working on our neck, I want to be even more sensitive with the rules of pain. So if anything is a 2 or above, I kind of want to back off just a little bit more, especially if you're not familiar with doing this level of work. So from here, we're getting some nice breaths, and just simply by resting here, we're already getting a little bit of that melting action. So the next thing is we're going to kind of slightly turn our head right and left. By doing so, this will kind of pop us onto one side of the occipital bone and then to the other side. And with where we're at with the foam roller, we're under a little bit of muscular tissue. So there's should be some kind of juicy feel to this. It may be sensitive. Notice if it's more sensitive to the right or if it's more sensitive to the left. And whichever side is the more sensitive side is where I want to start. So we'll turn to that side, find that sensitivity. Again, I want to keep it at a 2 or below. And once you're on it, we're going to take some nice deep breaths, full inhale. On the exhale, we're just allowing melting butter on a hot knife. I don't want to push. I'm not trying to dig my head into the roller. I'm just letting gravity do most of the work. And again, I want about a 30 to 40% reduction in the discomfort, in the sensitivity. So as it starts to soften and reduce, which shouldn't take that long, 2 or 3 breaths should be enough, we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Now the other side may not be as sensitive, so if it's not sensitive, we're just kind of feeling where it feels dense, the densest, thickest part of it. And doing the exact same thing. Nice deep breaths in, full exhale out, allowing tension to release from the body and allowing that tissue to just melt. Again, a 30 to 40% reduction in sensitivity or density of what you're feeling. And we'll go back and forth a couple times. So as that area on that side starts to reduce, we'll go back to the other side. Notice if by going back, if it's more or less sensitive. It may be that the original sensitivity has changed. You're able to get a little bit more specific onto a spot, but when you get more specific onto that spot, that spot is more sensitive than it was before. So I just kind of want to get really sensitive to what it is, the experience that you're having on the right side compared to the left side. And again, as this side starts to reduce 30 to 40%, we're going to go back and do the same thing on the other side. Again, 2, 3, 4 nice breaths in and out, 30 to 40% reduction in discomfort. Once we've gone back and forth a couple times on that occipital ridge, we're then going to move the foam roller a little bit lower onto the neck. Again, I'm just resting my head on the roller. I'm not trying to dig. I still want my occipital bone of the skull to touch, but I want more of the neck on the roller. So head should still kind of be softly touching the foam roller, lightly supporting. Again, the first thing I want to make sure is that this is not painful or stressful to the body. If this is comfortable, we're going to take a couple of nice breaths in and out. And we're going to do the exact same thing we did before, lightly turning the head a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. As soon as you start to turn your head, that's going to kind of pop you up to where you're on muscle, on the lateral muscle next to the spine on each side. And again, feel for where it feels more sensitive. I don't want it to be a pain 2 or above. I want it to be in that This should feel good, this should not be painful. And whichever side is the more sensitive side, that's the side I want to turn into and just kind of let it sit and rest. We're going to take some nice deep breaths in. On the exhale, melting butter on a hot knife. As you feel that spot reduce by 30 to 40%, we're going to go to the other side and do the exact same thing. Now, since we're starting on the side that's more sensitive when you go to the other side, again, it may be difficult to find the spot. So if it's not sensitive, you're kind of feeling for what feels a little dense and thick, and feels good, not bad. And then getting some nice deep breaths in and out and feeling that melting. And we'll go back and forth, right side to left side, a couple times on this area like we did above. As we come back to the other side, see if you can, if it's a little bit more specific, if you feel a little bit more focus of where that sensitive spot is. If so, great. See if you can get on it as precisely as possible without being in an elevated level of pain. Nice deep breaths in, out, feel that melt, feel that soften. And then same thing on the left side. You may notice that the side that is not as sensitive, after going into it a second time, that it actually feels more sensitive. Again, some of those more superficial layers, as they soften, allow you to get into a little bit of the deeper layer where it might be tighter and more restricted and more sensitive. Then we're going to slowly come back up into our inverted position or back into our chair, setting the foam roller to the side. Grounding through our palms, spiraling the elbows out, getting nice and tall. We're going to do our cat-cows from this position first, seeing if that feels any different. Since we didn't work on the outside edge of the shoulder here, I'm not expecting this part to feel all that much different, but it could. And if it does, that's important because it'll give you some indication that maybe some of your shoulder tension is really in your neck. And after 5 to 10 reps, we're going to spiral out and hold that tall open chest, spiraled out elbows. And we're going to go back into our neck mobility, checking our blind spots, turning that chin over the shoulder, going side to side. Right off the bat, you should notice if there's some improvement in your range of motion. Does it feel less tight? Is it smoother? Do you have more range of motion available? After 5 to 10 reps, we're going to come back to our tilt and lift. Again, pressing down as you lift the ear up towards the ceiling. Excuse me. Again, notice the difference in the tension, right side to left side. Has the movement improved? Or has the tension, has the tight spot gotten a little bit more focused and specific? And then the last for this will be our glide. Moving cheekbones side to side. Again, since this one's the more challenging of the 3 movements, you may find that this has changed profoundly, or you may find that this is just as difficult as it was the first time. I'm noticing I have a little bit more tension that I feel. I have more range of motion moving side to side, which gives me I'm able to get more of a stretch. So I feel that there's a lot more going to my right on the right side than I did earlier. So again, those are little things that I kind of want to keep in, pay attention to and keep in context with what's going on in the body. How did that feel for everyone? Any improvement on that?
Oh my God, it was awesome.
Big
My
difference?
neck is just popping like pop.
Good. Anyone else? Aaron, how was it for you?
I had more range of motion when I, checked the blind spots, but still a lot of tightness, discomfort, stress, whatever, when I do the ear side to side.
So you felt the ear side to side a little bit more?
No, not the glide,
The tilt?
when, yeah, but I didn't, no, that didn't change. The tension, the pain, the discomfort, all that feels the same. But when I do checking the blind spots, I definitely have more range of motion for sure.
With the tilt, do you feel a spot where it's like you could put a finger on it?
I need about 4 fingers.
Well, I mean, like, is it so specific that you could point to it?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
running down the side, sort of back side of the neck
Okay.
into the shoulder, but then it's my bicep tendon that hurts.
Do you have a Theracane?
Yes.
Okay. If you're available after the class, I'll see if I can give you a little bit more, something more
Okay.
specific. Aaron, how about you?
Pretty good. I like the foam roller neck that helps kind of like break up some of the tension. Didn't realize I had tension on my left, but would make sense. I feel like I have a lot more range of motion doing my glides. But the stiffness in my right neck, or like that ickiness, is more prominent after doing these stretches, but I feel like I'm getting more like just better use out of it now. So
Okay. Do you happen to have a Theracane?
I do.
Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna get into that just yet, but we can save that for the end if you have time. So we're gonna move on to the next thing, which is our shin box position. I want to get into our shin box side body. So I am my left facing shin box, the side in which my knee is forward and my chest is naturally turns towards that knee. That's the side of the shin box we're on. Whatever side shin box you're on, that side arm is going to come up and over the head, bending the arm so it's going flat across the top of the head. And we're going to start by just lightly trying to reach the ceiling through the elbow. Like I'm trying to touch the ceiling with just the tip of my elbow. I want to start with feeling the shoulder blades sliding up and down along the rib cage, making sure this isn't painful. And then I want to get my hand and I want to brush that area, that side body where we place our C-shaped hands. So I'm lightly just touching there. And I want to breathe into that space. Inhale, filling up that crocodile breath out through that side. And on the exhale, we're drawing our navel into the spine and reaching up through the elbow. I'll go through this again. This one gets a little bit more complicated. So we're doing our crocodile breath. As I inhale, I want to fill up this abdominal wall. Based on the position I'm in, my back side, opposite side, is closed. It's going to be really hard to fill this space up. But the side with my arm up is open, so breath should be able to expand into that region. So on our inhale, I want to fill this up and feel that side body wall expand out like a balloon. As we exhale, drawing navel into spine, we're reaching our elbow up towards the ceiling, trying to touch the ceiling with the elbow. Then when we inhale, we're let the elbow soften back down as we fill up and expand out and wide, filling up that balloon. Exhale, reaching up towards the ceiling. As you get comfortable with that breath, I want to start to, when you reach the elbow, also reach down through the hip into the floor. So you're reaching down and reaching up. See if you can feel a stretch in that same side body area as you exhale, and see if you can feel a stretch in that side body area as you inhale and expand out. So you're getting a stretch on both sides of your breath. One is associated with the inhale, and the other one is associated with the reach, pressing down through the hip and up through the elbow. Get a good feel for how does this feel on this side, and then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Bringing that elbow up and across. We're going to start by just lightly lifting that, reaching that elbow up to the ceiling, feeling that shoulder blade sliding up and down, also making sure that this position is comfortable. And then we'll add that other hand, brushing that side body. Seeing if you can inhale, filling up that balloon. Exhale, drawing navel into spine as you reach that elbow up. Inhale, inflating out and wide. Exhale, reaching tall. As you get the breath synced up, filling up on the inhale, we're going to start to reach down through the hip as you reach up through the elbow. And seeing if we can now get to where we have these two stretches. One stretch with the inhale, filling up, seeing if you can feel that press out wide through that side body. And then as you exhale, reaching down through the hip and up through the elbow. Can you feel that stretch long? And now I want to go back and forth on this one more time in order to really get a sense and feel for the difference of how does this feel specifically through this side body space on the left side compared to the right, with that, incorporating that breath. So again, nice inhale, filling out, exhale, getting long. Is it tighter on this side? Is it harder to fill that space up? Maybe you feel something in the shoulder, like base, posterior shoulder, armpit area. And then going to the other side and doing the same thing. My right side is the side that feels a little bit more congested. I feel it in the hip and I feel it in this low back. My left side, I actually feel it more in my shoulder, in the armpit area, but we're not working that area right now. So now we're going to grab our foam roller again. So this is this particular area I want to have an extraordinary amount of caution on as well. We're going to place the foam roller into that side body space where we've been putting our hand. There's a nice wall of muscle here, a few layers thick, but it's not that thick, and immediately underneath that layer we have internal organs. So I don't want to go in and just dig the foam roller. There's also nerve roots that are coming out of the low back, more in the posterior area. So there's, it's not super risky, but I want to be cautious. We're going to come back down into this side body position, keeping the foam roller. Foam roller is going to be perpendicular with the body, and I'm placing it below my rib cage and above the hip bone in that nice, soft, meaty space. I'm not putting all my weight on it. We need to be able to have a good amount of weight on our elbow and be able to keep pressing away from the floor. I don't want to let my body just collapse onto this shoulder. So if you cannot maintain this position, I want you to skip this part. All I want to do is lightly touch the outside, the lateral part of that abdominal wall onto the foam roller. And we're going to come back into our breath, that crocodile breath, where we are intentionally expanding that abdominal wall to press into the foam roller. On the exhale, we're drawing navel into spine. Inhale. See if you can fill up so that you're putting pressure into the roller as opposed to pushing the roller into your side body. Can you use your breath to expand out like a balloon in order to get some pressure onto that musculature of the abdominal wall? As you're doing this, on the exhale, you can soften into it a little bit more in order to get a little bit more pressure on the foam roller. And then again, inhale, filling up and pushing against that roller. This should feel good, and it should feel like light massage. It should not feel heavy, and it definitely should not be painful. And again, I'm looking for like a 30 to 40% melt, reduction in any kind of tension in this area. As you get that 30 to 40% reduction, we can vary, and again, this is going to be dependent on how strong and solid your shoulders are. We can roll the top shoulder back a little bit to about a 20 to 35 degree angle, which is going to get us a little bit more on the posterior aspect of that abdominal wall. And we're continuing to do the same thing. Inhale, filling up, pressing into the roller. Exhale, drawing navel to spine. Make sure that you're solid on the shoulder. If you need to take a rest or a break, that's fine, but I want to make sure that we're not in a state of stress on the shoulder. Again, inhale, expanding into the foam roller. Exhale, drawing navel to spine. As you get a 30 to 40% reduction in discomfort or in sensitivity, we can roll maybe another 5 to 10 degrees back. Again, making sure that this is not an uncomfortable or stressful position. And we'll get a few more breaths. Now we're more posterior, so that breath has to go more into the low back. Can you continue to breathe in? Feel that breath pushing into the roller. Exhale, drawing navel into spine. Again, this should feel good and pleasant, not stressful. And as you get 30 to 40% reduction on this side, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. So getting into that side body on elbow, making sure that this position is safe. Placing the foam roller below the ribs. I don't want it touching the ribs and I don't want it touching the hips. I want it in that nice, soft, meaty space. Lightly touch the side body, but don't put all your weight into it. And then we're breathing in and expanding that wall into the roller. Exhale, drawing navel into spine. And then getting into that concept of I want to allow this pressure, this area where I have tissue touching the foam roller is melting butter and the roller is a hot knife. This can be hard to do because I have stress through the shoulder. I'm pressing away. I have to try to be tense in the shoulder and soft in the abdominals. So it can be a little challenging. As you're feeling it soften a little bit, as you exhale, you can allow yourself to melt into it a little bit further. Just allow the spine to soften more into the foam roller, and then continue to inhale, filling up. Feel that wall push into the roller. Exhale, navel to spine. As you feel a 30 to 40% reduction in discomfort, we can then slowly roll the top shoulder so it's rotating back, and so we're getting a little bit more on the posterior lateral edge of the side of the body, low back. Again, inhale, filling up that wall into the roller. Exhale, drawing navel into spine. Again, I want to be non-painful. I want to be non-stressful in this position. If it feels like too much, then I'd rather you back off. There's other ways to work on this. It may mean getting a little bit of manual therapy from me or from a massage therapist, or working on some other things in order to get strong in the core so that you can hold this position. As you get that 30 to 40% reduction, we can rotate another 5-10 degrees to get a little bit more into the low back, posterior musculature. But again, inhale, fill, let the breath push into the foam roller, not your weight. It's the breath that is loading the musculature into the roller. Exhale, drawing navel to spine. Once you feel this area soften by 30 to 40%, we're going to come back into our shin box, side body, bringing that arm up overhead. Hand comes to that side so we know where we're filling in. At this point, we should have a little bit better sense and feel for bringing that breath into that area. Breathing in, expanding out. Can you feel that stretch of the inhale? On the exhale, reaching down, lifting up, drawing navel to spine. And we'll do 5 reps on this side. With each one, seeing if you can get a little bit longer. And then after 5, we'll switch back to the other side and do 5. Again, filling up. If you see if you can feel a light stretch on the inhale. Can you feel a light stretch on the exhale, getting long? How does it feel compared to earlier? Does it feel a little bit more mobile? Does it feel less tight? After you do 5, I want to go back and forth a second time. Really get a good sense and feel. That little bit of comparison. And at this point, as you're going back a second time, I'm going to be curious for any feedback. How did this make any changes for anybody?
So Jesse, I have the pain in my shoulder was on my left shoulder, and that left side, trying to breathe into that left side was very difficult compared to the right. After doing that, not only do both sides feel far more open, the shoulder discomfort on the left side in that position is diminished.
Awesome.
So,
Love it. Love it.
me too. Thank you.
Yeah.
This was awesome, Jesse. Thank you so much. A lot less pain, more mobility. Yeah, good.
Excellent. Aaron, how about you?
I see Lorna unmuted herself.
Lorna, yeah, I was going to ask you too, because you were the low back part. You had the low back stuff.
I had so much more mobility in my midsection, and I'm noticing that the tension in my shoulders is kind of moving and becoming more specific, as well as becoming less. So, and I'm just, I'm getting so much breath. I'm like very chilled out. I've got a lot of yawning happening. I'm very relaxed, which feels very special for me.
Well, good. So let's come back up. I know we're kind of getting long on time, but I want to come back and finish up with our crocodile breath, especially since we just did that last bit. My anticipation is that you're going to be able to fill up a lot more and feel, the neurology and the stretch. You're going to be able to fill it up more, and it's going to feel more connected and more balanced on both sides. So a good 5, 6 breaths, again, squeezing in on the exhale.